How's it going, everybody? It's Monday again, so it's time for Junior Mining Talks. And today we're doing something different, but of course, kind of the same. And actually, we're not doing any of that before you've subscribed and click the like button. This is YouTube after all, so I have to say these things. And, if you think you're too cool for that, I would like to remind you that you're a junior mining investor. So you most definitely don't have any reasonable ground to believe you're too cool for anything for that matter. So just do that. Okay. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you are already subscribed, I can almost guarantee that you haven't clicked the bell icon, which is probably the most important thing for a YouTube channel. It's a free option, which makes it very, very, very good. So it's a free option for you to get notified each time we post something, be 2 or 3 times a week, which obviously nobody in the world wants to miss. But okay, so basic YouTube stuff aside, I was saying no junior mining market overview this week as we typically do, Luke and I, because we're actually not alone today. And yeah, I suppose I'll let a very good GC in the room, and I suppose a good GC would make you what a GGC, Tom? What would that make you?
Yeah, I guess so. I've been wondering who would actually take it up, but it seems like after we've all met at the Gold Mesa, the term GC has taken over Europe.
Yep, completely. I think who came up with it? Or like where did you
It's
get
kind
it
of an
from?
old. It's kind of an old thing. I don't know. I guess I first heard it 10 or so years ago, maybe more, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And Maddie Michaels from Money of Mine has been trying, and it seems successfully, to normalize that term. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Maddie's definitely amusing. He's one to set in trends. So yeah, good. How have you been? Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I can't complain. Sweating in Berlin, but that's better than freezing and grey weather, I suppose.
It's true. It's true. Maybe just actually a quick background for people who may not know. Besides being a GC, Tom is also an exploration geo, and who now works for a German investment fund by the name of Deutsche Rohstoff. Am I saying that right? Probably.
Yep,
I'm
correct.
trying.
Good.
So that's why he's in Berlin, and he's trying his best to have a German accent. Although I don't think how well that's working. But he also writes books. He's written a geology book for people of the same mental capacity as myself, which is to say kids below the age of 10. But how did it all start, Tom? And how did you end up on, maybe to start off with, how did it all start for you in rocks, and how did you then ended up on the investment side of things?
Yeah. It started, I guess, in high school. I went well in geography class. One of my teachers was a PhD level geologist, and that was my science teacher. And then my geography teacher was very passionate about geography and taught us about plate tectonics and the rock cycle, and the three main types of rocks. And so I think I got second place in that in year 12. So it was kind of a natural progression to go from after high school into uni, not really knowing what I wanted to do, but knowing I wanted to do something adventurous and with lots of field work. So that's kind of how I fell into it at uni. I was rock climbing a lot in my sort of year 11 and 12, college or high school, whatever you call it, depending on where you live. So again, I really wanted to be out in the bush and exploring the world, seeing the world. And it was a great fit.
Nice. Well, good for you. You find something you like doing, and then you kind of cut that thing you like doing, and then you went to the money side, dark side.
I see it a bit differently. So I'm 42 now. I've been doing it almost 20 years. So, field work and running around the world is a kind of a young man's game. But it's also a big commitment to a single project, right? So you can commit 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your project, and you don't know if it's going to be economic. So I kind of, and maybe rightly or wrongly now, get exposure to lots of different projects. And by being able to allocate projects to what I think are good, projects that could potentially be mines, that's kind of, where I some of my alpha comes from. I spoke on the Money of Mine podcast, which you obviously saw, Antonio, about GeoAlpha. So that's kind of the concept of getting market beating gains by investing in discoveries. So Luke's certainly a practitioner of GeoAlpha as well. And so how did I get into it? Well, I married a German, essentially. So 7 years ago, I was living in Zambia in Lusaka. There wasn't much going on in the markets. Got my wife and I got married, and 9 months later came my baby, my daughter. So we decided to move to Germany to have our family, and then got the job with Deutsche Rohstoff.
What is that? What is that job like? What do you what does your day-to-day look like? What do you do?
So our fund is relatively small, but that makes it sort of nimble as well. We're a listed company. We're on the DAX. The R0 is the ticker. We kind of operate like a private equity firm. So we've got cash generating assets in the US, in Colorado. It's unconventional oil and gas. So they spin out quite a lot of cash. And being a German listed company, we don't get great market support. A German listed company in oil and gas, we don't get great market support. So we have a huge balance sheet, a relatively modest market cap by comparison. I think we're extremely cheap. And where am I going? So, but then, some of that cash we can, as a bit of a hedge against the oil market or the energy markets generally, we can invest some of that cash in public equity. So it's a bit of a different business model to maybe some of the other funds you've spoken to, which take investors' money or they manage their own money.
And so you basically tell them what rocks to look into and what rocks are worth putting money in.
That's right.
Good.
So just one thing. If the German market is not recognizing oil and gas value or mining value, why not seek a second listing?
Yeah. That would certainly be an option, I think, for some of our subs. And we do own big stakes in listed entities that we've set up and vended out. That would be probably an option to unlock some value, is particularly get some of the US subs listed. But that's a decision for the board, and I think our shareholders are very happy with the cash flows, and we have extremely high beta to the oil price. So if oil's going well, we go well, and for now everyone's happy. Paid a dividend this year as well.
With the well, obviously that's giving you being a geologist is giving you an edge in your job and getting that job and implementing your knowledge into it. But do you think that it's giving you an edge as a private investor too? Like, to me as an outsider, a non-geo, it seems like it almost seems to me like you're overpowered having that knowledge. But is that also the case in real life? Do you feel like you have a big edge because of your understanding of the rocks?
I mean, look, I'm still working, so that if I had if I had some sort of unfair edge, I'd be retired by now. But I think geologists are bulls by nature, and we like exploring sometimes uneconomic concepts. So it's very difficult for geologists to understand the concept of ore. So a mineralized body that makes $1 is an ore body, right? So the economic that economic definition is something that we fail to grasp at times. So that's something that I've been trying to learn in the last few years in this job, learning from people like you guys, particularly Luke. I love what he's doing with market data. So I guess being a scientist and a geologist, I do have an affinity for data. So I have trying to dig into market data and how to unlock some value that way, and pair that up with discoveries and commodity cycles, and all that good stuff that I didn't know much about before.
You said that geologists are optimists by nature, but my experience is that it mostly is about projects they are involved in. And when you evaluate projects, or not you specifically, but geologists, is my experience, other projects that they are not involved in, they are often very skeptical. Is that also your own experience, that you are typically skeptical at first?
For me it's very difficult to cover however many, you probably know this, Antonio, 2,000 or 3,000 issuers. You can't really know, you can't have a perfect view of the market at any one time. Yeah. So what I try and do, and this is probably not a satisfying answer to your question, Luke, but what I try and do is have some, rapid filters, mental models, to work out if I'm going to invest any more time on a stock. It's the classic one, and you've probably spoken to people that use this already, is 100 gram meters of gold. So 10 meters at 10 grams, 100 meters at 1 gram, something like that. So okay, good. The headline is 100 gram meters. I use 100% meters in copper, so 100 meters at 1% or any variation of that. So 100% meters copper, 100 gram meters gold. And then I dig into it. I go and look at is it infill? Is it a true width? Does the deposit model that they're searching for, does it fit to the terrain that they're operating in? Things like that. So that's where the geological knowledge comes in. So I can pretty rapidly decide, just within a matter of minutes, if I'm interested in spending more time in a company.
And can you also invest yourself, or are you sort of limited because you are involved in a fund?
No, the management are happy for me to invest. And what I've kind of learned is it's far more difficult to deploy larger amounts of capital, actually, than invest on what we call P8, personal account. So what do I mean by that? If you look at the liquidity of some of these stocks that we talk about, and we put $1 million into them, and it's going to, if I want to sell it one day, and it's going to take me 28 days to get out of that stock, but based on current liquidity, it means I can't get out unless they make a discovery and the volumes pick up dramatically. So again, these are things that I've had to learn over the last few years getting into investing, is that good, the shit codes that I invested with my geology buddies, because we like it, we like some other geologists, or we like the deposit model, doesn't always fit for the fund. And then likewise, if you only invest 100K and it goes 10x, you've got $1 million, but $1 million isn't a lot of money for Deutsche Rohstoff.
Does that mean that you are, as the fund, maybe privately as well, that you are mostly a discovery investor? I mean, we can discuss the volume a little bit later, but because there's almost always a liquidity issue, especially in these names. But are you mostly a discovery investor, or are you also investing in other sort of developers or producers, other types of companies?
So the two main strategies that again, the sort of mental models that I encourage myself and the rest of the panel to follow. One is the GeoAlpha, following GeoAlpha. Is this future drill program, or is this current drill hole that's just come out, is it going to be economic, and is this thing going to go crazy multiples? So that's discovery. And then the second one is what we call the beta fund. The beta strategy is simply following cycles, and then you can put $1 million into Kinross or Agnico really quickly, and then also get it out super quickly. So that, and the gold beta was red hot in the second quarter this year, and now we've got a red signal in gold, so we're not holding that much, and started to sort of wonder why is lithium so hated, and dredging up some of the old names that we have from the lithium space, and seeing if they're now good value. So kind of looking for the next thing at the moment.
So what do you think, is lithium the next iron ore, or is the jury still out on that?
So that's a really good analogy. I think it's a perfect analogy. And I think what some folks missed in that analogy is that, iron ore went from $20 to $400, but it also fell back to $50, right? So far that the iron ore analogy is playing out. So we're in a price discovery phase. I focus mostly on spodumene. So that is the long-term price of spodumene. Is it $1,000 or is it $1,500? We're just finding that out now. How much of this wave of lepidolite that's coming online in China, how's that going to affect all the different lithium chemical prices? So we'll know in the next 6 months. Yeah.
Isn't it a bit tricky to be so focused on the price? I mean, if somebody makes a complete surprise lithium discovery right now, in my opinion, it could be an excellent time. But if I look at these, and especially I did it last week for a number of metals, like all these metals, well, not all of them, but most metals have their sort of 1 or 2 years in the sun. Lithium, of course, the last 2 years, but also cobalt was very popular in 2018. Lithium in 2022, zinc in 2006 and 2016, I think, coal in 2022. And if you look at all these charts together, I was even thinking about making sort of a visual. They all have these big spikes, and in these spike periods, you see, lots of articles, lots of social media attention, all fund managers at conferences talk about it. And then within a year or two, almost no matter the fundamentals. I mean, lithium fundamentals are amazing, I think, but almost no matter the fundamentals, the hype ends for at least a number of months, but sometimes years. Is the metal price almost irrelevant if you're looking with your edge as a geologist for the best discoveries in lithium, or maybe in a completely different mineral?
Yeah, I agree with you. So you need to find discoveries that you can invest in through the cycle. So of course, it's best just to be out of them if the cycle's in a downturn, and then be back in them during the cycle ticks back up. But a way that you can kind of protect yourself is by only investing in quality. So if you look at the lithium name that suffered maybe the least, it's probably Pilbara, and that's because their asset is tier one, and it's multi-generational, and it's printing money even at low lithium prices. That doesn't mean they didn't go down a lot. Obviously, their margins get massively affected. So another thing that I kind of do is try and focus on the metals that I know. So I've worked for a major company, and that it was drilled into me at that company that you should only really stick to a handful of the most liquid and most traded commodities. So am I interested in niobium? No, I'm not really. I'm a little bit interested in cobalt because I've worked in the Congo and in Zambia. Am I interested in any of these specialty metals? Not really. Graphite, certainly not. Silver is a byproduct of copper. I know that's probably going to upset a few folks on YouTube and on Twitter, but if the copper bull market does kick in, we're going to just get more silver by default, which should help with this sort of hypothesized silver demand from solar. So yeah, I would say stick with the bulks, and gold, I think it's the third most liquid commodity market. It is still money. Iron, copper, stick to things like that.
I think we could probably do a whole podcast on the macro. I'm interested into it, although I don't let it influence my investment decisions as much anymore. I know Luke doesn't let it influence his investment decisions at all, as he noted there, which kind of makes sense. And actually, this might be maybe we could go back to the discussion of geo alpha, or what you call geo alpha there, and maybe you can walk me through an example, or like generally how do you find new opportunities to put your money in, and maybe you can give me an example of, oh, that's a company that I saw, like someone brought it to me, that's the first thing I looked at, then I wasn't sure and then I was sure, like something like that.
Sure. I mean, just to be clear, it's a good segue actually, because the reason you practice GeoAlpha is because these discoveries have low beta to the underlying commodity price. Like Luke says, they're not, Snowline was made during a gold bear market. Discovery was made during a gold bear market, 80 cents to what are we at today, $5 or $6. So what's an example? I guess we could probably talk about Lavras in the first instance. Is that where we want to go?
Sure, we can do that. Lavras actually had news this week too, so it's topical.
Yeah, it is topical. The news was there wasn't a heap of new information. They drilled an infill hole, which was really exciting, which did cross my 100-meter at 1 gram threshold, 100 gram meter threshold. And the market really was set alight yesterday by, I think the news came out on Wednesday, and the market was a little slow to react. Or there was something else going on with this at end of Q2 Australia tax loss selling. There's a lot of chaos in the markets at the moment, as you guys would know. So what happened with Lavras? Antonio, can I share screens?
Sure.
Can you see that?
Yep. It's the modeling.
Okay. So
is this your modeling software, or is this something you pay for? Or like, what's that?
This is called Leapfrog, which is an industry standard 3D modeling package that geologists use to essentially, they collate all their data in one place, and then you can create 3D models that follow geological rules. Old layers at the bottom, young layers on top, intrusives, cross-cutting. These are geological concepts that Sabino invested, discovered.
And this is within the framework of your job, or is that something that you just got on your own?
This is an annual subscription that we pay for.
Okay,
that Deutsche Rohstoff pays.
Yeah, I'm sorry for going on a little bit more on that, but it's just I've always wondered, like, is that something I should look into? Is that something retail investors should think about employing, even if they're not geos, but kind of trying to teach themselves?
I think it's difficult. So there's a really good guy on Twitter called Panda Pete, and he has kind of taught himself a version of 3D modeling so that he can look at the drill holes and try and thumb suck and understand the geometry of the latest drill results. He's done that really well in a handful of cases: Philo, Lavras, Patriots, Corvette, and he posts his stuff online. So that's kind of how I met him. Actually, it was a sort of sent him a DM saying, "Mate, what you're doing is really good. Keep it up." So we built up a friendship that way. So he uses, I think it's called Geoscience Analyst, which is a free package. Now, would I recommend that retail investors do it? Probably not. It's a lot of work. And Pete's gotten really good. It takes a long time to collate the data and update the database and things like that.
Yeah, I know Pete. He's actually Belgian. So, anyways, he does post these things. What I'm wondering is, do you think there's an edge to be had in using that software?
Yeah, I do. So there's a lot of issuers that will say, look at this fantastic result. And then once you put it in 3D, you realize they're just drilling the same zone that they've always been drilling. And it's gotten almost to the point for me now, whereas if I can't get drilling data on an issuer, that I won't invest in them. Founders is a good example. FDR, they don't share their data, and so I've kind of missed that one, and I'm still skeptical about the continuity of their ore bodies. So yeah, I think it's important that companies are completely transparent. Some people are scared because they think people are stealing their IP, but the companies are protected by owning the license, and the data belongs to the shareholders.
Do you think all the coordinates and data should be in the news release?
Yeah.
Because if they don't do that and you email them, would it already be a difference of information level if they would send it to you but not to the market? So they have to almost do it in the news release?
That's right. So I'd encourage them just to stick it on their website or in the news releases, because if they send it just to me, then we need an NDA, and then I can't really invest on it because I've been wall crossed and right. So yeah, it's best for them just to publish their data up front. And Australia is far better at it because of the JORC system and what they call the JORC Table 1. They put everything in there.
Okay, well, let's see that example of Lavras.
So Lavras, this is their tenement package in Brazil. I'm sure Luke will comment later on the capital structure. It's super tight. Management's really good. So and he's far better at that sort of stuff than I. So I can just stick to the geology, and what gets me so excited about the geology is this, these donuts. Everyone loves a geophysical image with a red dot or an intrusive, something that looks like a volcano. It's very tangible. It's very easy to sort of imagine that this volcanic center, has gold on the periphery, and they're beautiful rocks. They're cyanitic pink rocks. I'm sure you could find a photo, Antonio, of the cyanites. Mm-hmm. So late, I think August last year, they put out a cracking hit in something that they call Fazenda do Posto, something like that. Excuse my Portuguese accent. And that it did get me interested. Panda Pete sent me the initial release, and then I said, okay, well, I need to look at this a little closer. And then I saw, okay, they've got this thing here called Butia. There's 500,000 ounces there. They've got this other thing here called Cerrito. There's 500,000 ounces there. So there's already 1 million ounces on the property. It was capped at, I want to say 20 or 30 million at the time. It's now 180 million, I think, this market cap. So it was kind of cheap for the amount of ounces, and the geology looked great. This map that we're looking at now is more recent. I think it came out in February. That shows gold. Soil. They sampled the soil and created gold anomalies there. So you can see there's really strong, greater than 500 parts per billion gold anomalies over Matilde. I guess it's Candelaria, and actually Fazenda do Posto and Butia is a relatively small gold anomaly. So there's a lot more to be drilled and discovered within this broader, I think they're called the Lavras project. The town here, I think, is called Lavras. So yeah, that's caught my eye, and I really liked it. So I met management and plotted up all the drill holes. We didn't have a lot of drilling over Butia at the time, but I could see that I think it was one of these holes in here. I could see that was going to create a you can't say ore body yet. Well, you can at Butia. They've already proved the resource up there, so you can say the ore body there. But at FDP, I could see that it was going to create a continuous zone of mineralization. And then I asked myself how many tons could this additional drilling potentially create, and by creating these 3D bubbles, there's 14.4 million cubic meters of greater than five grams per ton material at both FDP and butyl.
That translates into how many ounces?
So this is again a sort of thumb suck. It's just an hour or two's worth of work from me. The next thing to do to get ounces is create a block model. In the case of Canada, you actually have to do a pit or a mine design as well, and then you can put the ounces out. But putting my neck on the line, can you see that one now?
Yep.
My Excel table.
Yes.
There's a volume of rock between 0.5 gram and 1.5 grams. That's 14.4 million cubic meters, and there's a high grade volume greater than 1.5 grams. The normal continental rocks, the density of them is 2.7 times water. So that's what geologists call the specific gravity. The SG is 2.7. So you can create tonnages that way. So those volumes generate about 45 million tons, which is already a mine. And the grade is, if you calculate how many grams within these volumes at these grades, it averages out to about 1.1 grams per ton. So again, that's a pretty typical ore grade in Brazil. Yeah. So that's just this area. There's a lot more drilling to be done, but that already gives me a good bit of confidence that they've considerably upgraded from the 500,000 ounces that they found at Butia so far.
Did they find any limits so far? Do you see any holes that are showing the limits of the system in certain directions?
Yeah. So that's another way of using 3D modeling, is kind of seeing where the dusters are, right? So if you drill in a southerly orientation like hole 21 did here, they hit nothing. I mean, that's fine because there's an overall trend to the ore body. I'm sure the next batch of holes are all going to be drilling, starting in the north, drilling south, now that we know the geometry of the ore body. Hole 23 was these blue dots are the collars that we just got the other day, Wednesday. And hole 23 was goes straight through the guts of Butia. It's the one that got everyone excited. Your question was the limit. So, there's dusters on the periphery, and then, this hole here in the west, this hole 4, that's the west, and the east is kind of known now. It looks like you can kind of see it on this broad map. It looks like there's a fault out in the west here that is controlling the western side of FDP, which is the deeper part of the system. The really one, the recent drilling has kind of shown that they link up.
Is the system not dipping, that this hole, the blue one right now, overshot the deposit, and that maybe the deposit is dipping?
Yeah. The hole was definitely not optimally sited. So I'm sure they'll start siting some holes over here on the north. And if you then look at Butia to help me out here, Gahayo and Candelaria, this is only 1.4, 1.5 k's away to the next gold in soils anomaly. So it doesn't mean they're going to link up, but if I were a geologist with Lavras, I'd be looking to drill up in this direction now. So if they do that sort of in a stepwise manner every 100 meters, or they just whack a hole up there, remains to be seen. But yeah, lots more to be done.
You also mentioned the hole that got everyone excited.
Yep.
And that was interesting to me to see everyone get excited at that stage, because the stock was maybe it was no longer free, is what I like calling it. Like it was not as cheap, I
That's a
suppose.
good point.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you can have good geology and then end up not making money in the stock either, because of a billion different reasons. Like there could be the dilution, you could have bought too high, there could be something with the jurisdiction and stuff like that. Where does that come in for you as a geologist?
Yeah, I mean, I can't add much more. I mean, the market machinations quite often can fuck up good projects. Yeah, so bad management, dilutive share raisings, too many options, all these things, bad deals with majors, all these things can make a stock unattractive, even if the geology is awesome.
Hmm.
In this company, I think a lot of those risks are not really there, at least from a bad management point of view. I mean, so far, in my opinion, they almost acted like a perfect junior mining company, because they got the right shareholders in who have a long-term vision. They have no warrants outstanding, a good share structure. I'm not trying to promote Lavras, I do own it, but I just think that it's almost sort of the perfect scenario for making a discovery in this vehicle. But when you look at the deposit, where you just had a sort of a rough number that you put around it for your own purposes, um, is it your expectation or hope, or maybe you're waiting for them to step out? Do you think this could be sort of a stacked system with multiple deposits in a row, or do you think this is potentially one bigger deposit? So what is your sort of model? You're probably sitting at a good gain already because the stock went up and it's trading at its highs. But $100 million is not much if you think this is the next big thing. Could it become a snowline type company that becomes $1 billion? Is that the size potential here? What is your sort of future vision for this company?
Yeah, I think it does have billion-dollar potential. So, just to your point, it's still 10x from here, even though it's a relatively early stage, 100 million market cap. The what I would want to see them doing, and I'm sure I should point out they're a very good technical team, as well as having managed the cap structure and gotten a solid board in place. One of the board members has been buying on market. I would be drilling those really strong soil anomalies in the north, and then far out in the east, Matilda, I think it was Matilda and Candelaria. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about the potential there. And in a way, they had to drill around Butia first, because that's where the current ore body was. That was where they had the most data and the most knowledge. So they just wanted to build on that knowledge. That's natural. A lot of companies do that. They drill from the known to the unknown. And that's how you can make stepwise discoveries, drilling into the unknown and hitting separate bodies, better mineralized bodies of rock.
But do you think, like, because Fazenda de Posto is what really drove the share price from, I mean, I think the day before it was trading at 35 cents or something. It opened at, well, maybe 40, and it opened at 60, 70 cents, I think, when the discovery was announced. Is that still your sort of big play, or is your thesis, like, there are several anomalies on the project, and I think in the company's opinion, this could be a huge project that, where people will make discoveries maybe 20 or 30 years from now. But
That's true.
I don't think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think your vision is, or your timeline is 20 years. You may have a long timeline, but that's, when the project is in the mine stage, and somebody else will own it if everything goes well. So what is it that you're looking for as an investment thesis? They drilled 4 meters of 40 grams last year at, I think, Zeka Souza. Are you looking for them to make new discoveries, or do you think it will be, one discovery, or is it just something you cannot say because you don't know?
Don't know is the short answer, but let me answer it. Let me answer the thesis. What's my investment thesis question? I would want to see all those anomalies tested, a couple of drill holes in them first, before I was sort of willing to, let go of my stock, right? So I think the potential is still far greater than 100 million for them. So it remains to be seen. Happy for them to keep on drilling, spending money, and they seem like good allocators of capital as well, disciplined capital allocation. So, and then I guess the other part of your question was, am I going to hold it until it becomes a mine? Certainly not. By the time these things start to get studied and fall into the second part of the Lassonde curve, I'm no longer interested.
So you've not, like, you haven't de-risked your position with Lavras, or you haven't sold yet. You're not thinking of selling.
No, I mean, there's still way more potential. That's, you've got to let your winners ride. That's another thing that is difficult in sort of portfolio management, is just letting them ride. It is tempting to take profits.
Is it? I mean, I agree. I think I'm not here. You are here to give your opinion, but a 100 million market cap is not that much if they probably backed it up by the discovery between Batia and Fazenda de Posto. So it's really like an open story, almost not knowing where it will lead to. They could make new discoveries within a month. It could take another year or 2 years. So would you be willing to give them those 2 years to
Sure.
make new discoveries?
If they kept on advancing the project the way they have been, the thesis hasn't changed. So, my investment wouldn't change. Once the thesis does change, then you have to maybe think about selling. So, and gold is still in a bull market as well. So you're going to have support from the gold, just from the gold beta as well.
I want to be maybe a little bit selfish here, because I mean, this seems like enough talking about things that I was not involved in or missed out on. So let's maybe talk about something I was involved in, kind of looked into actually myself. But Awalé Resources, Tom, I have talked about this before. A lot of people used to bring them up together up until they kind of split from the corporate perspective there. But what do you make of Awalé Resources? Have you modeled it?
Yeah, I have. ODN, right?
Yes,
See if I can get it up. Haven't looked at it for a while. I hope it's not too messy. Oh no, this looks good. So I, like everyone else, was extremely excited by the drill hits, and then less excited by giving up 75% of a discovery to Newmont, right? But that's just what happened. That's the way they had to keep the lights on during the gold bear market, and Newmont was smart enough to do a good deal for Newmont. So Charger is down here in the south. The hits that got everyone really pumped up. That, if I recall correctly, you know this better than me, Antonio, but it was only a week or two between announcing BBM and then 2 weeks later came Charger.
Correct. I even think it was just a week.
A week. So our mutual friend Vukasin was like beating me around the head with, Arik Awalé. Was the entirety of our conversation at the time was around Awalé. So it was on my radar, thanks to Vuk. And I was ready then to buy after the BBM hit. So why did I like it? I guess is that kind of the question. The phenomenal BBM hit, and I actually think there's way more ounces in BBM than in Charger. I think it was this whole year 74. Yeah. I should be able to even get the intercept up.
Yeah, so it is whole 74 that had the 75 meters at 2.4 grams a ton. Yeah.
Okay, I got it at 1.8, but there might have been some credits from copper. I try to just look at a single metal. This sort of equivalent thing. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense down the track, but the discovery has to be made on a single element, really. So yeah, 75 meters at 1.8. So that's a world-class hit. Comes out as at 135 gram meters. So passes my filter. And there were holes prior to this phase, I think, drilled in early 23 or 22 that had good sniffs in them, but there was nothing that you would really call ore grade yet. So then this cluster of holes came out. And I was able to generate a volume of rock being 8 million cubic meters. So yeah, pretty good.
Is it a concern when it's deep? 1.8 grams is amazing for an open pit, but 1.8 grams is not much for an underground mine. So how much does that play a role when you look at these? I mean, it's impressive, I think. Yeah,
it's okay. It's 200 meters deep, and then it's probably.
I suppose it's also a good point
long.
to talk about the strip ratio on BBM, because I think the strip was kind of raised as a question mark a couple of times when they first drilled it. Then they drilled Charger, and then nobody was paying attention to BBM anymore. But what do you think?
Yeah, the strip will be high. Do I think this is uneconomic? Certainly not. I think BBM, they need to do a lot more work. And if you got continuity across 500 meters by 200 meters deep, gold projects can handle a fairly high strip actually. So that's probably okay. And then we'll know more around BBM soon. Where was that map? It's a fairly long structure.
Yeah, and I suppose it would also be good, but you tell me if I'm hitting the pipe here, but if they drilled some grades into the meta sediment or beyond the contact, that would also improve the strip and then kind of change the whole story of BBM. But would that be, is that probable? Like, could that happen?
I wouldn't bank on that. I mean, the gold's going to be concentrated on the structure, but the continuity is good already. So you should be fine there.
That's another point that you maybe should touch upon: continuity, because you can have 75 meters of, it is indeed 1.8 grams of only gold, 2.4 was equivalent, but there's 0.43% copper in there. But yeah, I mean, how continuous is that, or is it nuggety? And then in this case, you kind of go through the meterage if you want, and then it's
super continuous, right? So that's why this body that I've got so far, it is so attractive, so mineable, because it's the continuity. 500 meters of continuity is pretty good, pretty unusual.
But that's one of the main things you look at too, right?
Yeah, continuity is super important. And Charger doesn't have as good continuity. So that's kind of why I like BBM better, even though Charger has the sexier high headlines. The drilling, you can see they drilled a lot in Charger before. I think his name's Andrew. Through the dart and hit the middle of the target. That deep hole 83. It's a lot of holes, isn't it? So they drilled 32 minutes at 45 grams, which is really remarkable. 1,463 gram meters. It's certainly world class. And then how do you model an ore body around that? Well, it's a bit difficult. You've only got 1, 2, 3 kind of hits that you have to try and string together in an ore body, and I've done it that way. You can see there's no drill control around that hole 83. So yeah, we'll see. Exciting, but I think BBM's maybe the main game. And again, you guys know this better than I, but the scepter is really what got the band of 3 being Vuk, Antonio, and Devram excited. So
I always wanted to see, and I still want to see, an 800-meter hole into the guts of Scepter, and just see what comes out of there. I mean, either stop teasing us and kill it, or give us a % of copper. And I'm speculating, of course, and I do own shares of Awalé, so just the disclaimer. But what do you make of Scepter? I mean, did you have something on Scepter?
No, I haven't modeled anything. I haven't got any drilling there. I don't think it's a porphyry. Again, this is a sort of a beer fueled discussion that we had in Frankfurt. We probably don't need to go into the weeds on it. It's essentially the rocks are too old for it to be a true porphyry, but it's probably intrusion related something. I'm pretty sure Vuk thinks it's IOCG or porphyry. So yeah, we'll see. Agreed. It needs to be drilled, and then this whole part, you can kind of see it on this map. This whole part of the northwest Côte d'Ivoire is pretty exciting. A few juniors drilling there now.
What do you when you look at this, and so you said you kind of look at it from the perspective of, okay, is it in the right setting for this to be the deposit type that they're after, and they're after an intrusive related / IOCG here with the hematite alteration that we're seeing at Charger. It's kind of it's the iron part of the I part of the IOCG is suggesting that it's going to be checking out. But is this the right setting for an IOCG?
It would be new in this area, I believe. I haven't done looked at the academic work on it, but the Birimian, which is the name of the broader region, covers a big chunk of southern West Africa. The Birimian rocks are really old, ancient greenstone rocks, which are phenomenal. It's a phenomenal time in geological history and a phenomenal host of gold. Yeah, so the classic greenstone belt is in the Yilgarn of Western Australia. So the gold, the famous Kalgoorlie pits, the Gold Mile, all this stuff comes from same age rocks. The gold from greenstones arguably built Australia. So this is the opportunity for the people of the Côte d'Ivoire is to be the next Australia.
When you look at these, Awalé really went up when the Charger hole came out. It's an amazing hole, very, not 1 meter of high grade, really the complete intercept almost with high grade gold. BBM, you said, is probably maybe the key thing for the future. I guess you're saying that because it's maybe more continuous. We don't know that about Charger yet, but how do you in general consider these amazing holes? This one is not even like 5 or 10 meters, like 30 or 40 meters.
Yes,
can that be a one hit wonder? Or
it can be. Yeah, it can be. Unfortunately, they could have hit.
Don't say that, Tom. You're not supposed to say that.
They could have drilled down the guts of a very narrow vein. Do I think that? No. I think there's more to be discovered, but certainly not a one-hit wonder. And that one thing I haven't really looked into that Fukuson and the band of brothers have encouraged me to do is the 100% owned tenure, which is, I believe, now granted and ready to be worked on, and they're cashed up to be able to do some work on that. So excited to be able to see what they can produce there.
Why do you say that? I mean, what have you looked at to be able to say, like, are you looking at the lithology? Have you looked at some of the geochem they took? Or like, do you make like a checklist or a recipe as if it would, cooking a cake or something? Like, why do you know to be excited about those lands?
Because they're part of the Birimian greenstone. So the ground that they've pegged has the right rocks, and that's a really good start. Believe it or not, some companies try and promote projects in unprospective rocks. So yeah, these greenstones are normally can produce really big gold mines.
Yeah. Oh, so but essentially it's lithology. So the actual type of rock that's on surface is what matters for you as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know. So we talked about porphyries, right? So porphyries occur on the margins of continental crust. Yeah. So it's as you've got subduction, the porphyries pop up on the edge of continents, on the island chains offshore from the edges of continents, right? So if someone's telling me they're looking for a porphyry in Archean rocks, I would normally say, well, you guys really don't know what you're talking about, because plate tectonics hadn't really kicked in a major way during the Hadean and the Archean. It took a while for the crust to evolve, continental crust to form, and then that continental crust become felsic enough, evolved enough, fractionated enough for porphyries to kick in. So I actually don't know what the oldest porphyry is, but certainly 600 or 800 million years old would be a really old porphyry, and they occur at relatively shallow bits of the crust. So if the rocks are really old, they're normally eroded away.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, do you want to ask another question about Awalé, Antonio, or
I want to talk
confident?
just for the rest of the evening. We can talk about Awalé. It's really only 5 o'clock here. The night is young. That's what I want to do. But I know you want to talk about something else that also you have shares in, Luke. So take it away.
Yeah. We all have our own interests, right?
Yeah.
No, this is I think a topic on its own, and it doesn't. I'm not sure if you're prepared for this, but we could also talk about it in general. Like ramp metals last week came with a very big surprise discovery of 74 grams over 7.5 meters. Also pretty continuous as far as I can see, at least over 3 or 4 meters, and then there's 1 meter of 20 grams, 1.5 meter. So, I mean, it's not like a Lavras type hole where you have suddenly 100 or 200 meters of intercepts, and you know, okay, this is probably big, or we really drilled into the guts of a system by complete coincidence. This could be anything in terms of its width, but the grade is amazing. They were looking for nickel, they found gold, but it's just one hole yet with a couple of zones. Can you even personally or with the fund invest in something like this, or do you need more information before you can say anything?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that we need more information. So generally, what's the name of is it in the Frotep Belt in Canada?
No, this is in Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan.
Really an area not known for its gold, except for one deposit, which is quite far away.
To the east, to the southeast of the Athabasca Basin, but also like kind of in the middle of nowhere, if you will.
Yeah, no, I would need to look into the geology. A broker rang me up because as they all do, they raised immediately after the good hole. So I just said no. So that kind of answers your question, in that we can't do it in the fund because it's too quick. Yeah, we would need to do far longer DD, and it's too small, it's too liquid. And then personally, I wouldn't invest in it because of, I need to understand these things before I commit some of my own capital to them. So I need to understand the terrain, the style, have a look at the material that they put online. And my first just 2-minute DD impression was that I wasn't going to be able to get comfortable on that name quick enough to be able to participate in the raise. So headline's great. You're already thinking the right way by looking at continuity. So yeah, it remains to be seen. I'll certainly be following if they can follow up on hits like that.
But there was no raise yet in ramp metals, so I'm not sure if you are you referring to ramp in Saskatchewan? Maybe
maybe the broker just said make sure you look at it. Yeah, you see.
All right.
Yeah, didn't do enough work on it.
No, all right. I mean, it's not just about ramp as a company. I think it's intriguing because discoveries often, real discoveries often come a little bit out of the blue, and of course not always. But I remember Chalice in 2020, they were drilling a target, and it was not even in their slide deck. But they did write about it in their financial quarterlies, and they drilled it one hole and they made a big discovery, and of course followed up and became a really big company. And sometimes they just come out of nowhere. And this company was looking for nickel based on geophysics and a bit of a belt there close to Fathom nickel, and they found gold completely unexpected until the day that they got the assays. They didn't even see visible gold in the core. They also admitted they didn't have much time to log it because it was extremely cold, -30 or something at the time. So it's this is a company with a very small float and a very small market cap, and of course it increased quickly. But in your opinion, I mean, something like this could become amazing or could completely be nothing. Is that right to say it that way? I mean, could it be?
I
Or
mean,
could it,
there are countless examples, and the odds are that it will turn into nothing, right? But there are a few examples where they've, it's turned out really great. So, I want to support a comment that you made about, just exciting discoveries that occur in new terrains. That really is something, paradigm shifting. So then people need to start thinking about, well, why is there gold in this part of the world where we didn't think there was ever any gold? Can we fit some sort of deposit model around it? It's also useful to not be too model driven, just follow geochemistry or geophysics and drill test your ideas and get your the truth machines, as they say, the drill rigs are the truth machines. Get the truth machines out there and test your anomalies.
okay.
When you when you look into, or if you were to go and look into ramp from now on, maybe this kind of could be a summarizing point here. What are again the first things that you're going to do? So you're going to look at are we in the right rocks? Yeah. What else? How do you take it chronologically, kind of step by step?
Yeah, I would pull if there was data in the announcement. Was there any data there, Lou?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were completely surprised. We interviewed them last week, and even the rock type was surprising. We are not geologists, so I should not try to explain it. But I think they had difficulties explaining it themselves, just because they found it in the type of rocks where they didn't expect gold at all, and even in this region. So I think everybody still has lots of question marks, and that's why I also talked to some geologists who bought the stock. They are surprised themselves, but they are like, it means something. I mean, you just drill a hole for nickel and you find this in an area where nobody found high grade gold or gold at all ever. Well, maybe I shouldn't say ever, but not in this property package or north of this property package for sure. And there's a gold deposit, maybe I don't know if it's 50 kilometers away or 100 kilometers, but not just near this project.
Gold and nickel does occur right next to each other in greenstones again. Again, that's why the Archean was so remarkable, because the rocks were so hot back then. But I don't know. I would just have to do more work, yeah. But love to see discoveries made. We need more capital going to quality projects, or the crap projects out there, but quality projects making discoveries, and love to see it. I mean, the other thing people always say, you got to YOLO into these things, but if you look at Awalé, if you look at Lavras, if you look at Big, Hercules Silver, there's always opportunities to enter names that you have high conviction on.
Well, Big is a good example, because they made a semi-blind, or mysterious discovery, whatever you want to call it. They were drilling for something else. They discovered a copper porphyry. It was called Hercules Silver, right? And they discovered this big porphyry. Can you foresee these things beforehand? Like with Awalé, and Luke and I have discussed that before, but with me, it was definitely a dose of luck. Like I had a bunch of hopium on the rocks, of course, but it was a huge dose of luck for me getting involved that early on, which is 4 million market cap, 3 million market cap, something like that. So can you, as a geologist, this kind of goes back to the first point or question that I asked you of having an edge. Can you foresee it before it happens? Like, would you have recognized ramp? Would you have known about Big or Awalé or Lavras or something else?
No, I think the edge comes from after the first drill hole, to be honest, being able to crunch the data once there is data to look at. I think it is, I really love the Awalé story as told by yourself, Vukasin, and Devram, and Stephen. I think there's video of that online now. It's a sort of a romantic, it's gutsy, it's true discovery. And you guys really believed in it spilled the board, got new management in place. Pretty remarkable. So no, despite Vukas bashing me around the head, I didn't buy Awalé stock until after the BBM hole. So no, I think the skepticism can hold you back. You don't see the romantic side of these stories at times. And also, like, just the amount of scars I have by investing in things pre-discovery, because I believed in the deposit model, I believed in the team or something like that. And it just, doesn't matter if the drill doesn't tell you, come up with results, and you've dusted your money.
I think it's so something that I recognize. If somebody finds something even pre-discovery and starts reading and reading and talking to the company and starts to really enjoy the process and everything that the person found, it's very difficult for that person in general, in my opinion, to transfer that optimism or that excitement about that story to someone else until something happens. I have stocks that I try to sort of pitch to people, to friends, and they said, "Oh yeah, interesting," but they never really buy it because they didn't really find it themselves, or they just listen to it and think, "Yeah, there are 10 other stories like that." So I think it's also indeed a bit of the romantic nature of finding things and trying to find your own sort of deal, and sometimes you need a bit of luck and you get lucky. And I'm not saying that Awalé was just luck for these guys, but you need a bit of luck. I certainly have a bit of luck every now and then too, even though there's a process behind buying the stock. So is that something that you do as well when you look yourself? Are you often looking, just filtering and screening for names? Or is it really that names come to you and get introduced to you without searching yourself for the next new thing?
Yeah, I like your Twitter tool, Luke, to be honest. Is it called Drill
Alert.
Yeah. Why the reason I like that is because it's just a feed of data. It's completely unbiased. There is no romanticism in it. So I have identified things that I then go and research from Drill Alert. I look at things that brokers send me. I look at things that my Twitter network send me. I look at things that other geologists send me. So why would I then go and spend time on and then fundamentally invest in the stock? It could be a bunch of things. So I really enjoyed the lithium boom because it was kind of a newish commodity for me. Pegmatites aren't that complex geologically. They create these pregnant snakes, these sausages, and you can model them up really nicely in Leapfrog, understand the geometry, and see if there's going to be tonnages. So I spend a lot of time looking at lithium discoveries, and so that's kind of the process. It's these mental filters. 100 gram meters in lithium, it's got to be. It used to be 10 meters at 1.4%, but now it's like 50 meters at 1.4% because of just the wave of lithium supply that's come online. So that the deposits just have to be that much better. So yeah, it's a range of things. There's no silver bullet, and there's no one thing that gets me really excited.
So for me, what gets me excited is cheap stocks. When it's like 2 million, or with a million, I get excited. If you just tell me there's a bunch of ants on the project and they went 80 meters deep and they brought a bunch of gold up to surface, and now we're gonna drill this thing, but the market cap is $1 million, I'll get excited. I
actually get that instinct, because if there's a tangible geological model and the stock is cheap and they're about to be drilling, that does get me excited as well. Albeit, what's the one that you guys have been looking at closely recently? Is it Tor Metals?
Yeah, although that's no longer as well. It's obviously almost free because it's with $4 million market cap or something. But I believe it was 2 when I first started looking into it again. So the price is the main thing that kind of get me excited.
Yeah. So for me, it would be, okay, is it cheap relative to the stage it is at for exploration? And is there going to be a catalyst soon? You don't want to be sitting in these stocks for 6 or 12 months as well before the any potential drill results come out. That's kind of a knock that I have on Tor. Another consideration is, these things are so cheap. They quite often don't have the budgets to be able to complete the programs that they're proposing, right? So if you're worth 4 mil and you want to do 4 million bucks worth of work and you have no cash, how are you going to fund that, right? So some fund manager is going to take 50% of the equity for 2 million bucks, and then so you get screwed that way. So it's just being cheap is not enough. It's cheap relative to the stage of discovery that it's at, and also the cycles are important as well, even in juniors.
And I suppose the cost of the exploration program that is expected to create some share price moving news, because if you're in West Africa, you can actually do, some soil sampling, some termite area sampling, and maybe follow the locals, and then, come up with something of a target that you can get the market cap to a workable space, where it's not 1 million, but it's maybe 3 million. Then you raise a little bit more money on that, you do some geophysics, and then have some, decent drill targets, and kind of make the story that way. Whereas if you're in an expensive jurisdiction and you don't have these options, and you're at a $1 million market cap, how are you actually going to work the project from here on without 1,000% dilution or something? That's kind of what I think about it.
Yeah, it's worth looking at. Finland. It's a great example of a super prospective geology, and it's super expensive jurisdiction. Like juniors basically can't work there effectively. It's also covered with a thin layer of till. But those same greenstone rocks that I've been raving about in Canada, Australia, and Western Africa and Brazil, they also occur in the Fenno-Scandian Shield of Northern Europe. So there's no reason why we couldn't make more discoveries here in Europe as well.
How do you deal with pre-exploration then? I mean, is it really just gambling? Is it worth? And I'm asking this again from a selfish perspective, because should I even build a career, or should I invest my time in trying to get better in pre-exploration plays, or is it really mostly gambling?
What I would say is, what I've learned, being in the sort of institutional investor side, is that the risks I used to take were like breathtaking. Investing in the stocks that I used to invest in, now that I know the dirty tricks and the way it works with brokers and with a deal flow and warrants and all this stuff, there's so much risk for the average retail investor. But I still did it. I still invested my $10,000 in making discoveries. So that's not a really helpful answer to your question. Look, I think you're doing a great job. I mean, you're interviewing these companies, getting paid that way. Probably your PA is probably doing pretty well because of the knowledge that you've learned. You do always say, I'm not smart, but I actually don't believe that. And
well, we haven't talked for long enough. Give it a couple of times.
Every time I hear you make a comment like that, I cringe. But I think what you sort of carved out your niche, and that is super interesting. Adds value to the industry. And then again, for Luke, while we're having a circle jerk here, I think what you're doing with data is super interesting, and that's why I wanted to talk to you in the first instance, was to see if we're all trying to leverage our bits of alpha out of each other, right? So Antonio, yours is like networking and media and stuff like that, and Luke, your data, and you guys are interested in what I have to say because my geological knowledge. So yeah, let's all work together and see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also good to know your limitations. For sure, my geological knowledge is very limited. I know enough to ask questions to companies and get a good feel for what they're trying to do. Of course, when looking at essays, or especially at the thesis, then sometimes you lack information. And that's why for me, it's very important to look at the team, especially pre-discovery, because we just talked about $1 million and $2 million companies, but Also below 10 million, you could have really cheap companies. I think most companies in this space are below 10 million. So in my opinion, then you really have to look at, can this company raise money? Because if you see a company with just geologists, and you sometimes see that in Quebec companies, and of course also outside of Quebec. But in Quebec, you see often a very geological, exploration-driven team with a CEO as a geologist as a CEO. I'm not against it per se, but it is a bit of a risk sometimes because some of these people don't like promotion. They don't care or don't want to care about CF structure because it's just paper, and the discovery can solve all of it. But since discovery is not very standard, I mean it's very unusual. You also have to work with a scenario that you're not going to make a discovery in 1 or 2 or 3 programs, but you still need to raise money. And if you just throw the bad news out and you have no other plan and the stock goes to 3 cents, how to raise money? I see companies raise money at 1 or 2 cents. At some point, they just cannot continue without a rollback and rebrand the story again. So is management to you very important, and is a geologist a red flag or at least a yellow flag? Like, oh, I have to be worried a little bit. Can they raise money? Can they tell a story? Can they sell the story?
Yeah, I think it's fair to paint all geologists with the same brush, and it is extremely rare to have a market savvy geologist, and it is a really good commodity for the CEO to be both a geologist and someone who's market savvy. Some of the guys they do 3 or 4 years in the field, and then they go to brokers or banks. So they still think geoscientifically, but then they can also do navigate the markets. So I agree, but there are really good examples. Scott Vidal, as we were talking, Scott Vidal came to mind. He's become a friend, and he kind of started up Snowline right about when I started working on the fund. So he was one of my first meetings, and I immediately had a rapport with him because he was a geologist, but I didn't kind of for 1 second question his ability to navigate the capital markets or his ability to be CEO. He did kind of ask me once, do you think it's an issue that I'm so young? I was like, no, I think it's an asset because I want you out there working hard. It's pretty good looking as well, so that maybe helps. So he makes him confident enough in front of people. So as long as it's not this sort of, I think Mike from Lavras is also a geo turn analyst, and so there are examples of good guys, and when they're good, it does really work.
Well, Chris Taylor of Great Bear was also a geologist, is a geologist, and so I was just trying to suggest that it doesn't happen, but I do see companies with geologists who are
frustrating.
Pure geologists. They are just wired, not wired as a salesman. And I think you need a little bit of it in most cases, or you need somebody else in the company to help with that process.
And I guess Scott will be the first to say he had really good, he had a really strong board, and he had really good support from market people, including Quentin Henning, who was really early. I don't think he's on the board any longer, but he was there really early. Told everyone once there'll be 50 million ounces. But
that was a lot of fun. I remember.
Seven's pretty good. We'll take 7. So that's kind of what I think about that. But if you think of what's an example, too technical, like Azimut in Quebec, they're sitting on 3 or 4 discoveries and still laboring at a 60-70 million market cap, because they don't know why. Maybe too technical. Maybe because it's not on the ASX.
Yeah, and I think, Jean-Marc, I know him very well. I've been investing in Azimut for many years, and he is a true geologist. I think he got better. Maybe he doesn't necessarily have the sort of Vancouver banker type presenting skills. He is very technical, But he got better, I think, at looking at market importance over the years. But for sure, it's not a promotion-driven company. And I mean, maybe we don't want a promotion-driven company, but a company that is promotional savvy, let's just say.
I really like the discoveries that they've made, and I think I have invested in the past, but I'm no longer invested. So because I just kind of gave up. But I'd love to see them succeed.
Yeah, I gotta get Jean-Marc back on. I had him on for an in-depth interview. I met him at PDAC that looked at their rocks with the UV light and everything. It's yeah, he's a great guy. They're doing things the right way, definitely from a geology perspective. But then you also have a point that the mix has to work too between a salesman and a geo person. So yeah. Tom, let's let you do your thing. I could keep talking for hours, and maybe we should do this again soon. And maybe we should maybe I should read up on Hercules, because I feel like it's an interesting story that you could talk a lot more about, but I don't necessarily have any other questions on it. Maybe we should do it again and talk specifically about Hercules. Anything else you want to add here, Luke?
No, I think so. I think we should wait when the essays are out, or more essays are out on Hercules. You know quite a lot about it. Antonio and I have to read a bit more, because I also sort of stopped following it in detail, and then do it again if you like it. We took your 1.5 hours. So next time we can do another 1.5 hours if you like.
Pretty long, but that went quickly. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, you're I actually don't agree. We should do 3 hours next time. It was not long enough. I think it should be longer. But yeah, no, Tom, thank you again. I really do appreciate you doing this. This was very good. We do need more of these chats. Happy for them to take longer. But I know both of you gentlemen have to go now, and I am seeing both. Unfortunately, Luke is not going to stick around for this next interview, because he has something that I just recently learned about. But he's got something that's called a life, and I hear it's very nice though, but I cannot give my opinion on it yet. But so for this next interview, I'm catching up with Marc-Antoine. He's the CEO of SRQ Resources. We interviewed him a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, Marc-Antoine. And well, first of all, thank you for being here, of course. But so yeah, last time you and I spoke, which is again about a month or so ago, I mentioned that if we had been talking a week earlier than what we did talk at, your stock would have been 60 or 70% lower, as we were speaking on the back of a news release, which was very good, and it pushed your stock up like 4 or 5 times higher in about a week. And so now, unfortunately, that we're talking, I can say almost the same exact thing, only the other way around. Like your stock would have been 3 or 4 times higher had we been talking like 9 or 10 days ago, because it's fallen back down to almost the same level really as before the first news release that you made that geological discovery in. So basically you did an 8 to 45 cent trip, and then a 45 to 10 cent trip again in about a month or so. So why is that? What happened, and why are you down so much?
Well, I think what's happened, it's the fact that we have discovered a very absolutely beautiful geological target that we call the target 900, but unfortunately it's overlaid by what I identified and what I was discussing about the refuge biologique that was set by the government of Quebec about 10 years ago, and there's about 1,300 of those scattered everywhere. So it's a very unfortunate situation where we have that refuge biologique just on top of the target 900. I think.
What is that though? I'm sorry for interrupting here, but what is that? You say refuge biologique, a biological refuge.
It's simply a forestry. It's a zone where no forestry work should happen, and that's it. So it should not impact mineral exploration if we are not doing any disturbance at surface. So we can technically we can access by the side like we did with the drilling, and that will not affect the surface. So what I believe, people were probably a little bit nervous about the notion of refuge biologique, and that's probably one of the impact on the market. We saw that also during the call, one of the call I did with Renmark, when I simply mentioned that refuse, and some people also took that was seen as negative at the time. But we frankly believe that we will have a positive discussion with the government related to this zone. This zone is a small zone, and it is not like a national park. It is not something like a reserve himself. It's simply that's been delimited here and there over the province for avoiding forestry operation over those zones. That's it. So we simply need to have a discussion with the government. We already started this discussion, and I'm absolutely convinced we're going to have a positive outcome out of that. So it's a very unfortunate situation, and I don't think it's ever happened in the Quebec province where we had such a situation where we have a beautiful target that's fit over one of those zones. It's a combination of a element that's totally out of our control, obviously, but we are doing everything to fix that at the moment.
Okay, and my reading of the situation was also that the stock had ran a little bit too much on what was a geological discovery, but not yet an economic discovery. So
that might be the case also. Like I mentioned to you and Luc last time, I was the first one surprised when we did the first press release that people were actually reading the press release. I thought it would be completely unnoticed, like many other press releases that we're doing, but people were quite impressed, and rightly so, because I think it's definitely a beautiful target. It's got all the elements, geological element for what we are looking at. It's a fold. It's in the middle of the fold and we have the mineralization unique passing by those area. So the accumulation of sulfides in that trap, it's mostly it's likely to be the cause of that high gravity target. So it's a question of drilling and to see what we have there. So it's a beautiful target. It's geologically speaking, it's got all the proper elements to make a discovery there. So it's just a matter to drill it. So unfortunately, we had that little situation on top, which we will fix, because I already mentioned that to one of the officials in the government, and we are preparing all the narrative as we speak. And I'm hoping to be able to meet with the government in the next few weeks, and hopefully that will be resolved quickly.
I hope to see a news release on that rather soon myself as well. And as I have now to become a shareholder, as I told you, Marc-Antoine. But
yeah,
what got me interested was specifically the price when it fell down to the 10-15 cent range is what I really thought was very interesting, because what you had mentioned in that first release and to us with Luc last time about a month ago was that there is potentially an emphasis on the word potentially here, but a potentially large magmatic intrusive here at depth, right? And apparently
it is there, that's for sure. The large magmatic intrusive, it is there. That's okay. Geologically speaking, it is there. We see it even more and more from surface evidence. If you look at the surface map that we put on the last press release, you will see that we have outlined that intrusive system on a much larger path than we initially thought. So the intrusive system is there. All the geology characteristics that we described before, it's all there. There's no change to this, and it's actually looking even better. So geologically speaking, there's no step back on this whatsoever. It's the opposite, actually.
That's what I was going to ask you, is because last time I understood it that way. Now I understand it that the intrusive is there, it's bigger, it's better than you had expected, but the grades are not there in the way that you had expected them. So what's happening? Where are the grades?
Well, actually, we didn't hit the center of that intrusive system in the fold system. The grade that we were reporting was from the Gossan zone, which is about 6 kilometers away, and it's more. I should characterize the Gossan zone like a satellite zone of the intrusive, and we might find several of those zones within the intrusive package, and it might not be that one that will make the big discovery. It's probably related to near the high gravity center. That's where it should be. So the Gossan zone this is what attracted us at the first time when I discovered the Gossan, and when we did the initial initial EM system, as a very good response. But it's relatively small, and I don't think this is it is the catalyst to the area, but I think there's a much larger potential than just the Gossan zone. And we have the North zone that we have not yet accessed, which it's about 3 times the size of the Gossan zone. And now we have that target 900 that seems to be at depth, below the impact from the EM survey. So this is probably why we don't see it on the EM survey, because it's probably around 700 meters from surface. So it remained blind as far as the EM from airborne surveys. And there's additional other gravity targets that we still need to test that are below also the line from the visibility from the EM surveys. So there's several other zones within the entire land package that we have that need to be looked at and to be drilled at some point.
How does the finding of those new pyroxenite units that you discovered with 8 kilometers, I believe, southwest from that Gossan zone?
Yeah.
How does that tie into the whole region? I mean, does that still confirm your thesis of what you expected is a big event coming to the surface? But can it be that big? And what else is it telling you for the region as a whole?
Well, you see that hole that we drilled, the last one, the campaign in April, the number 29, was drilled as a test to see what we have in the surrounding of that target. It was just a test to figure out what we had. We had to do it very quickly, because before we were able to drill up to May 6. After May 6, the government in Quebec imposed to have a new authorization for drill. So we did this hole in order to reach the deadline of May 6, and it was just to see what we had underneath. We intersected 951 meters, because we stopped the hole at 951 meters. 951 meters of the entire intrusive sequence. Even the top of the hole, we were directly on the main unit at the top. We call the leucogabbros, and after that we hit the pyroxenite for about 735 meters. That is impressive. It's an impressive intersection. I don't think in the Grenville province that have ever been done. Okay, 735 meters of pyroxenite, massive texture, not even altered, not even weathered, not even sheared or affected by any metamorphism. It's by himself extremely impressive, and it gives the magnitude and the size of that intrusive system. I had to stop that hole at 951 meters because I run out of rods, and the deadlines also of the 6th of May. But we could have continued this hole for maybe another 600 meters, and I'm convinced that we will have stayed in the magmatic pyroxenite all the way. We intersected mineralizations, mostly pyrrhotite between 900 and 951. Little bit of nickel through it, but it's mostly pyrrhotite. So pyrrhotite is the iron sulfides. So the system is mineralized with sulfide species, but we are away from the center of the anomaly. We are about 250 meters away from the center of the main anomaly, which is probably one of the reasons why we only have pyrrhotite at the end of that borehole. But still, we did intersected copper and nickel on few stringer zones, which I reported that. And this is highly significant when you look at the potential for the zone. The hole is so far away from the main target that having that mineralization and these stringers is highly significant. You know, we can miss a whole zone like this by 2-3 meters and only have these kind of a little stringers and without knowing it. So we already at very far from the target, 250. I was not able to approach the target because the borehole, instead of lifting as they usually do when we drill, it depended as it went down. So further I went down, farther I was from the target. So I had to stop at 950 meters because I would have simply going down in the system, and it was no point at this stage because this was an orientation hole. So that all of this was the magnitude of the geological discovery that we really have done at the time. Just by himself, that discovery, it's absolutely fantastic. Now we need to put this technical discovery in an economic discovery. And that's the next step. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to do with downhole geophysics and or at more drilling, okay? So in order to do more drilling, I need to wait from the government of Quebec to give us the authorization. Like any other company, exploration company in Quebec province, we have to wait to receive the authorization for drilling. So the government, I don't know how long that will take. We did the application, we file everything, we follow all the rules. We had the communication with the First Nations, we had communication with the MRC. All the requirements are fulfilled. We simply wait for the government to give us authorization for additional work. As far as the downhole geophysics, I'm in communication with several groups. I just want to make sure I'm using the most powerful downhole geophysics available at the moment. It's not, you know, you cannot just do a quick downhole EM and thinking that you're going to have a good response at the bottom. You really have to use the right technology and the right configuration for the downhole geophysics. So because we are at 950 meters, because the target, it's about 250 meters away from the borehole and sitting 700 meters below surface, we need a very special type of configuration for loops and power of the equipment. So this is what I'm looking at. I cannot say when we're going to do the downhole geophysics at this stage because I'm investigating all the possible configuration as we speak. So this is in the plan, but I don't know exactly when that will happen.
But chronologically, you want to do downhole geophysics first, and then go back to drilling after you've received
that's the most logical way of doing it. This is usually what we like to do, as long as the downhole geophysics will give us the outcome that we want. The outcome I want is to have at least a radius of 250 to 300 meters around the borehole at depth at 950 meters in order to be able to cover the zone of interest, which is 250 meters away from the borehole. Most of these downhole geophysics will give you a radius of 25 to 75 meters around the borehole at these depths. That's not good enough. If I'm doing this, I will lose money because it's not going to give us what we need, and the people will think that there is nothing there. But I want to avoid that. I want a system that will give me the largest radius of visibility as possible. And it's not easy to find.
Right. Can you give me any type of time indication though? I mean, that's a process for you. Like you're currently talking to different geophysics providers, or like when do you want to have this by?
I'm currently looking at different groups, looking at different configuration as we speak, and when something will be definite, I will let the people know about that.
What about the
but
permit?
It's ongoing. Don't worry, it's ongoing.
What about the permit though? Is there any, like, what would it typically take for the Quebec government to come back to you?
Actually, we can do the downhole geophysics without having the permits.
Yeah, no, I meant the drilling permit. Like, how long would
It's
it
two
typically?
different things. The drilling, we need the permit from the government.
Yeah.
I have no control. I have no control on timing with the government. That's entirely their schedule. The way I understand it works is we apply for it, or request has been accepted. Now, what they do is they communicate with all the stakeholders in the area. And the stakeholder here, we are talking about 3 different First Nation groups, where they communicate with them. They take their advice, they take their comments, they take their I don't know, the communication, and they revert that to us. And then we answer different questions. There's a kind of a dialogue that can be set. So it can take 2-3 months easily between the time that we file the application and by the time we got authorizations.
What are you going to do in the meantime?
Well, we're doing the surface mapping in the meantime right now. We have a team on site. This is why we are doing that with the team. And if you look at the map that was on the press release, all of this, all the geological surface interpretation and layout of the intrusive system was because of the team is right now doing all the detailed geological mapping. And what I'm talking about detailed geological mapping, we're doing that not just description of the rock, but all the measurement for structural deformation, the measurement for the lineations and all of that. You know, the typical geological work at surface. And we also have the help from Dr. Normand Goulet on site, helping the team. And actually, I'm going there tomorrow.
Okay. So, are you going to have enough money to finish all that work, cover G&A, and cover everything in the meantime before getting that permit?
Absolutely. We have about close to $1 million in the bank as we speak. Or requirement for the expenditure requirement for the flow-through money that we raised last year, it's almost completed. I think there's another $30,000-$40,000 as a commitment on the flow-through money, so that's all good. And so yes, we do have money in order to wait for all the permits. We have enough money to do the downhole geophysics, and we have enough money to do all the G&E and so on until this fall. So to do the next raise, we're not in a rush. We're not desperate whatsoever. We do have money, and then we keep going.
But it's not enough money, I don't assume, to drill anything after this. How much did this drill program cost you on a per meter basis to go that deep?
Oh, you see, the last drill campaign that we just were just made.
Mhm.
The average, including the deep holes and everything, the average contractor cost was $101 per meter. Average contractor cost.
Okay.
So that's very cheap. Okay, that's not much. Okay.
What's that?
One
Is
of
that
the reasons
150?
why,
Is that a 150 all in? Like when you count assays and working hours and everything, is that
no,
150 or?
I don't count assays on that. This is contractor costs, only drillers, contractor costs.
Mhm.
Okay. So $101. So which is very cheap. Okay. One of the reasons why it's cheap like this is because we are very well organized in the field, and we also have access to good access roads. So it's easy for the drill to move around, and we drill on old roads as well, old forestry roads. So that's easy. And we only at 3 hours driving from Val d'Or, which is the base of these guys. So access, it's easy. Logistics is easy. We don't need helicopter. We don't need fixed wing support. Everything is done with pickups and roads, and so we are fortunate for that.
Right. Why I'm asking this, because I'm thinking, are you going to have enough money to do another hole before and have the assays out before having to raise capital? Because raising capital at this price right now is just not going to be pretty. So how do you look at that?
Well, we want to, obviously, we won't do a placement at this price at this moment. I think we're gonna be able to redress the situation with the stock before we do the next raise. Okay, so I'm convinced of that. So that should work fine. But until then, we have enough money to do the download geophysics, and we have enough money if we want to do 1 or 2 holes anyway. So, but obviously we would prefer to do some raising money before next drilling phase for sure.
Before starting to be on fumes, essentially, you don't want to raise money when you need it. You want to take it when you can.
Yeah,
Which actually
you're
reminds me of
right.
why not? I mean, why didn't you raise last week? I mean, there should have been
Yeah,
offers on the table, I think. So what
I
did you?
knew you will ask that question. Actually, we had several groups interested with the raise, but like many shareholders that maybe sold on the fact of the refuge biologique. We had all the disclaimers also. So I think the groups that would like to do the placement will probably want to see the situation fixed with the government as far as the refuge biologique prior to do the next raise, which I understand that, and it's fine. That will be fixed.
Right, but I mean, you could have, I suppose, raised at what 40 cents because you were 45 cents, and even at 35 cents would have been more than twice your share price today. So why didn't you raise then?
Yeah, but at the time it was a little bit fast, and we were not prepared at the moment. By the time we approached groups, and then so the variation was difficult for the group to focus on. And by the time it settled a little bit, and then it simply the timing was not right anymore. So everything went so fast and so unpredictable at the beginning. So we were a little bit taken off guard.
Yeah.
I have to say at the time. So I understand the questions, and obviously we do have that internally as well, as far as the way we are looking at the situation. Obviously,
You don't seem worried. Now, actually, you seem more excited than the first time we spoke, but then your share price was up, and now your share price down. So how come?
because I'm absolutely convinced of the geological potential of the property. More I'm going on site, more I'm absolutely convinced. So it's just a question of time. I have personally, you know, I know we're gonna. I know I'm convinced that we have something there. So it's just a question of time.
Good.
And
Well,
we
Mark
will
Antoine,
we will fix all the tumble how do you call that, the stumble block, whatever, on the road, you know. We had several
speed
tumble
bumps, yeah,
our
speed bumps.
a bit bumps, if you want. We're gonna fix all those bumps, guaranteed. The potential of this property is so great that well, we're just gonna have to take one bumps at a time, but we're gonna get there, guaranteed.
That's a very good note to end it on. I know you told me you didn't have too much time. I still appreciate you taking time off your schedule to speak to me. So thank you so much for doing this. Am I forgetting to ask you something? Anything you want to add here at the end?
No, I think it was a great discussion. I'm very happy that and I'm sorry for my voice. I'm being a little bit with the flu here, but I really like talking to you and to Luc. And seriously, anytime you want to have an update, I will be always there and having that discussion with you.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.